Okay, in this video we're talking about listening part C. It's an introduction to the format and what to expect when you do your practices and when you do your tests. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the task and the timings. All right, so in terms of task and timings, you're going to be listening to two long audios. They will be approximately 5 minutes each. Okay. And they're going to contain all types of things. They might be about treatment, they might be about conditions, they might be about experiences or technology. Very similar to reading part C. They've got lots of different types of things in there, and it can be a bit complicated. It can be a bit difficult. Okay, the language will be a little bit complicated. Yeah, it'll be complicated in places. Okay, so vocabulary is going to be very, very important. Okay, very, very important. And we'll talk a little bit about that later when we talk about some advice. Now, in terms of timings, okay, you're going to have 90 seconds before each audio, okay, to examine and analyze the questions. Okay. You're going to have 6 questions per audio, which means 12 in total. Okay, so you're going to have 12 in total. Now, there are going to be different types of audio that you're going to hear. Okay, so that means you're going to be hearing, type 1. Okay, it's going to be an interview. And an interview is what we call a dialogue, okay? And a dialogue means 2 speakers. The other type will be a presentation, okay? And that one is a monologue, okay? Which means 1 speaker. Now, it becomes significant because it can be quite difficult to know when the questions are coming if you don't have clear signposts, and we'll talk a little bit about signposts later, okay? But yeah, interviews are generally considered a bit easier than presentations. All right, so that's the task and that's the timings. Let's talk a little bit about the questions, okay? So when we look at the questions, what we've got here is we've got a typical question, okay? So a typical question, what that includes here at the beginning of the listening, you've got a kind of a description of the context. What is this situation? Is it an interview? Is it a presentation? Who is it by? And what is it about? Okay, so in this case, it's an interview. And you have those 90 seconds to read your questions. Now, in our strategy, we've got some really good advice about how to prepare questions, but today I'm not going to go into that into too much detail. Instead, we'll talk about the question. Now, the question here, we can see that you've got a question stem, okay, like we do in reading in part B and part C, like we do also in listening part B. We've got a question stem, and what we have to do, as usual, because this is a multiple choice question, we've got to think about elimination, okay, and choosing the right options. So what we have to do with each question, as we normally say, okay, if I could pop this down onto the next, let me pop this down to the next screen. What we need to do here is we need to think about, okay, for each question, 1, does the answer option match the audio? Okay, does it match the audio? Again, this is all about paraphrasing. And secondly, does the answer option answer the question stem? Okay, so we see this a lot. One of the ways that you're fooled is by, oh, it might say that there are social groups that are affected, but does that mean that's why Chagas is a neglected disease? You need to do both of these. Okay, you need to do both in order to get the answer correct. Okay, and it's a bit tricky. Preparing the questions in your 90 seconds is absolutely essential. Okay, so let's think about useful skills. Our strategy depends a lot on giving you great vocabulary. You know, we teach a lot of vocabulary at SET English, and it's really important that you do this. Develop your vocabulary. All right, lots and lots of different types. Keyword analysis is your ability to look at answer options and say, oh, I've just heard that word. This is what they said about it. Okay, keyword analysis in each of the answer options is really important. And recognizing signposts. Signposts are phrases that say the answer's coming. Okay, so in that question before, it was neglected. So instead of saying neglected, what they might say instead is they might say, this is why nobody really pays any attention to it. Okay, so that's a kind of signpost. All right, and when you're doing interviews, it's much easier because the interviewer will give you the signpost that the next question is about to begin. It can be a bit tricky. Some other useful skills, okay? I would say go and listen to anything you can outside of class. It's not just a classroom-based thing. You can't just learn a strategy and then think, okay, I know how to do it now. You've got to improve your vocabulary. So learn lots of different accents, learn and watch lots of different TV programs, listen to podcasts, and develop that language. Okay, you can go and find medical documentaries in Australia, America, in Canada, in Ireland, in Britain. Just go onto YouTube, you can find a lot. And also a really good idea is to get the transcripts after you've done practice. Don't just mark it right or wrong and think, oh, well, that's finished. Have a look at the text, have a look at the transcripts and work out why you've got the answer correct or why you've got it wrong. And you will improve your vocabulary and you'll improve your knowledge of phrases in English as well. Okay, so again, this was just an introduction to what you can expect. You're going to find lots of different topics in Listening Part C. You've got multiple choice questions, and we need to be able to analyze the options in order to get our best answers. Okay, good luck. See you soon. Bye-bye.